Yes.
Cool. Hi guys, how are we?
We're doing well.
Barry. Thank you, Barry.
You're welcome.
Cool. Well, this is Google Ads 101. I'm going to make that very, very clear. This is a very basic Google Ads class. So if you've never done one before, never even thought of doing one before, you're in the right place. Okay. Google Ads is something that is complicated. I'm going to be honest. There's a lot of things to it. No. It is a lot of bells and whistles. However, Google does a real good job directing you through the process. And hopefully with the information that you take from today, you will know a little bit about what to do and mostly how to do it. Before we start, I am curious. Does anybody in here run Google Ads already? All right, we're in good company. Everybody else together. Okay. Oh, I had a clicker. Hold on. Okay, this is what we're going to go over today. We've got my little intro. We're going to talk about key terms, terminology, how to set up a Google account, making your first campaign, targeting your audience, writing an effective ad, monitoring and optimizing. That is a big one. And then we're also going to talk about conversion tracking, tips for success, and troubleshooting, because that's probably the thing I get reached out to most around Google Ads. Is people do that and they don't know how they mess up. There's a few things to look for to make it easier on yourself. Okay. All right. So, what is a Google ad? I would hope it's mostly obvious, but it's online advertising on one of the biggest, the biggest marketing platform in the world, Google. Okay. We all use it most every day, I'm sure. Is there anybody in here, just out of curiosity, that uses like so, you laugh, but I see it. No, okay. That just solidifies my point.
You remember that one?
Yeah.
Oh, that's old.
What year was that?
That was like 8 or 11.
Late 90s.
Oh, then I was 3. Sorry. Anywho, but it is the biggest marketing platform in the world. We all use it most every day, multiple times a day for the this crap out of it. But it's also a really, really effective platform to market your business. Okay. It is connected with YouTube, which is the second most used search engine. Didn't know if you knew that. Google owns YouTube. If you haven't heard that before, there you go. And then Google also has this really, really cool thing called the Google Display Network. And basically what that means is they have accumulated relationships, the virtual ones, with over 35 million websites to show ads on websites and applications. They show ads on over 35 million different places. Okay, that's important because when you think about running an ad on like Facebook, just on Facebook, maybe it's on Instagram because they're together, but that is a much smaller sliver of the internet that Google's reach with the display network. Okay, so in my personal opinion, I think that Google ads are a much better use of your money than Facebook ads. Not to say that they're not relevant, because they have their own space and we should appreciate them in their own way. But Google is going to get you further in front of more people for a better value. Okay. All right. So some important words to know in the Google universe. These are things you're going to see thrown around a lot, and it's important to understand what they mean because there are a lot of things that sound very similar that you can get confused, but it's important to take your time and really learn the basics. So ad campaign, that is what your ads run inside of. Okay, it is basically an infrastructure where you can put all different kinds of ads for different purposes, but it is the container that they all live inside. Okay, we'll break that down a little bit shortly. Then we have our ad group. An ad group is within a campaign. And it's basically a way to target specific products or people, depending on what it is you're trying to advertise. All right? Keywords. Now that's why I call this key terms, because keywords is actually a vocabulary within the Google space. And essentially, it is a word or phrase. It's not just a single word. It can be a long tail phrase as well. That basically is a trigger for when somebody goes to Google, they type in real estate near me, real estate, or real estate near me are keywords, key phrases. Those are what are going to kick Google and say, hey, show this person this ad based on what they've searched for. Very important, very, it's a very important piece of an ad altogether. Okay? Quality score, that is going to be how well your ad, your landing page are going to be able to serve the people of Google. So this is a number that you can see on your Google dashboard that basically is going to say, okay, your ad account, your landing page are well equipped to serve people, and you get like an 85% score. We have a 40% score. There's stuff you need to improve. It will give you an actual number and tell you how good you're doing in the Google space. All right. And then we have cost per click. You probably heard pay-per-click, cost per click, that is how much you're going to pay per click on a Google ad. Now, this is where Google makes their money, cost per click, because that is how Google makes money, is people clicking on advertising. All right. So cost per click is you saying, okay, Google, I'm willing to pay $5 for one click on an ad. They will then be able to set up to that amount depending on some other factors. But that is what you pay Google to potentially get. Whether or not you get those leads, the cost is not the only factor that matters. Not by a long shot. So there are companies that are millions of dollars in companies. They could have ads run for hundreds of thousands of dollars. They could do that. It doesn't mean they're going to get every lead, because the dollar amount is not the end all. Okay?
What's a typical something like that cost?
Well, it very much depends. And there's a couple of options. Google is very, very smart. And there is a kind of like AI, it'll tell you what they think the sweet spot is going to be at.
Does it depend on the category?
The category, it'll depend on a lot of stuff, and we'll talk about it. But there's also a manual option. That one is kind of, I don't want to say a crapshoot, but it's not as reliable as letting Google tell you. The thing of it is, too, we have to remember, Google is a for-profit company. Yes, they want everybody to advertise and be successful, but they also need to make money. So they're going to tell you what they think it's worth based on what you've said. And it does do better if you listen. You don't have to, but it's there. All right? Any other questions on these terms? Now, when you make an ad for Google, you are automatically entered in what is called an ad auction. And it's exactly what it sounds. All right. You've got this thing, this ad, that you want to compete in the Google space. And when I say compete, I don't mean just against other realtors or people in the real estate industry. I mean every other human being that has put a Google ad out there. You're all in one big vat of competition against each other. Okay. And this is where the whole top dollar thing comes into play, because we could have a company like Geico, I don't have safe insurance, but that have a bunch of money and they're going to run this really, really expensive ad. That's all fine and dandy, but they don't appeal to everybody. So they run an ad and say, show me to everybody. Google isn't going to do that, because if someone's going to the internet and saying, I want to see tree service companies, Allstate doesn't match that. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So even though they've spent $1 bajillion, they're not going to get shown to those people. And that's where keywords come into play. Because when you make an ad, you want to put in the keywords, key phrases that apply to our industry so that you're narrowing down in the funnel about who you're going to get shown to. Okay? Keywords are very, very important.
Do they change a lot, or there's some standards, obviously? But
There are some
it's something
standards.
that we have to keep being aware of.
And this is kind of a little more advanced, but there is a keyword planner in Google that will show you what the competition is for certain keywords. So like if, for example, you have flagged real estate in Des Moines, houses for sale in Des Moines, whatever, it'll tell you if at that current time, there's a lot of competition trying to get ads shown for those keywords. So if it's a low competition, that's a good one to include because you're going to be meeting the needs of people that are not currently being met. You know what I'm saying? But it does fluctuate, it does change. So that is one of the reasons monitoring and being actively involved in your Google ad is such an important thing to do because it does change. More often than not, it changes. It evolves. All right. So in the ads auction, we have ad rank. All right. That is basically Google's way of examining everything you put in there in the ad and determining whether or not it is going to meet the needs of consumers. So they're going to look at your keywords. They're going to look at your locations. They're going to look at your visuals, what devices you're trying to put ads on, all of these things. And it's going to put you up against all the other ones in your keyword category. And it's going to determine which ones are going to most likely perform the best for people. All right? Tell me if you're with me so I'm not confusing you too bad. Okay? All right, next thing is your bid. This is where dollars come into play. Like I said, top dollar amount doesn't always win the leads or the engagement or whatever it is you're doing. But it is important to look at what they're saying is the recommendation and judge and decide accordingly. All right. Landing page quality. This is something that you need to consider that's outside of the Google space. You need to consider where you're sending people from your ad. So like if you're sending them to your website, you need to consider if it's meeting the needs of consumers. In the real estate space, is it somewhere that has current information? Is it somewhere that has an email click button that actually works? Is it somewhere that people can search for actual listings? Have you updated it recently? Is it an active, living, breathing website? All of those things impact how well your ad will be, how well your ad will perform. Because if you don't consider those things and your website is just kind of a thing you slapped together and thought nothing about, that's fine. But it's probably not going to meet all the needs you're trying to meet. Okay? Not to say you have to spend $1 bajillion on your website, but you do need to be mindful when you're building your site and putting pages together with the kind of information you're providing. You kind of have to put yourself in the shoes of a consumer and be like, what are they searching for? Because if you're a first-time home buyer, and I'll admit it, when I was born, I didn't know jack. And I worked at Remax for 3 years. I didn't know anything about buying a house. So if somebody were to go and Google, what is earnest money? Does your website answer that question? That's something you should think about. And if your target audience is a first-time home buyer, your website should answer those questions and then some. Okay. And then we have ad rank threshold. So this is essentially the minimum, it's like barrier to entry into the ad auction. It's the minimum amount they require based on competition and all the information we talked about, how much money they require at minimum to compete in the ad auction. Okay. Now, all of this stuff will result in an ad rank score. This is unfortunately not a number we can see. This is something that Google does back in their creepy crawlies, and they determine as a whole, all of these pieces together, how well is it likely to perform based on clicks. It's kind of a guess on their part, an educated guess, but they're gonna look at all of these things and say, okay, based on previous ads, based on all of these new factors, we think people will like this ad and they will click it. Right, so all this stuff really does matter. Questions on the ad auction? All right, so we're gonna move on to setting up your Google account. This is a pretty basic thing. I will tell you, if you've never made one before, Google does do a really nice job walking you through the step-by-step of how to do it. They do the thing where like you can't proceed until you've completed XYZ step. So the first time you make one, your ad account, the campaign, all that jazz, it is very, very straightforward.
Will we be able to get your PowerPoint?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. I will tell you, I didn't do a screenshot of the ads platform because it does change. Bless Google, they like to be with the times and they like to make sure it's as like relevant as possible, but that doesn't mean that the way it looks, it is laid out. I would say it probably changes at least a little bit once a month, every other month. Not necessarily crazy, but they do update it pretty often. Okay. But number one, to create your account, you're just going to go to ads.google.com. The important thing to know is which Google account you're in, like which email address you're logged into when you make the Google account. Okay? Because I have had people, and I won't name which broker, he made an account for a company and ended up putting on an email that we didn't realize. And then at one point, he made another one. So there were two floating out in the universe for the same this, and things got a little messed up. So make sure you know which email it is, whether that's your concept email, whether that's your personal business like account, whatever floats your boat. Make sure you consciously make that choice. Okay. You're literally going to hit start now. It's a big blue button in the top right corner, and it's going to walk you through the process. The first thing it's going to do is prompt you to start a campaign. All right. Now, you don't have to push this live, but it basically is like a dry run of making an ad, right? It's going to have you put in things like your location, your keywords, the URL it's going to send people to, all your visuals, all that crap. It's going to walk you through it, okay? And the nice thing too, it is a Google product, so if you're like an hour in, half hour in, I need a break, you can close out, it'll save, you can come back. The last step is going to be setting your budget. It's going to ask for your card information and all that jazz, but it's going to have you set up your budget depending on how much you want to spend. If you're doing cost per click, cost per impression, cost per action, it'll ask you all that stuff. Okay. And then you can make it go live. And then if you don't want it to run, I go back in and I just pause it or I delete it after the fact. But it's a good way to do it for practice. Okay. And if you, sidebar, want to like sit down and do that with me at some point, we can do that.
You put a timeline on it like Facebook. I want it to run this many days.
Yeah, you can decide actually. You can have it either be a lifetime or a daily budget.
And if you're doing an open house or something.
Yep. Yeah, you can have it be whatever makes sense for you. Yeah, there'll be options to pay per click, cost per click. So how much do you want to spend per click into the ad? Pay per impressions, like how much, if that's the one you pick, how much is one set of eyeballs on your ad worth to you? Cost per action is if you have like a form filled out, how much does somebody filling out that form, how much is that worth to you? You can pick which way you want to go.
But like a click means just like I could accidentally do it 5 times and I just charge this person 5 times for
You have to
ad click.
click into it.
Like you want to click into it or like
I mean,
accidentally click into it.
Somebody could accidentally click into it.
See, that's what scares me. Somebody can do it 20 times and I just got charged $20 for no reason.
Well,
Like,
I mean,
literally no reason at all.
I wouldn't do,
$1 a piece.
I
Right?
was gonna say, I wouldn't do $20 for action maybe, because action requires like steps that people
Okay.
consciously take. But that's a good point to raise though, that like impressions, you don't want to spend $20 per impression. That's just eyeballs on your ad. That doesn't get you anything.
You know how many times I accidentally click an app
Oh,
and they respond back, they're like, oh, how can I help you? I'm like, bro, you can't help me. I don't
What's
even
the
know why
best,
I
what's the
clicked it.
best, what would you advise? I mean,
well, it
just
depends on
start
what your ad
with
goal
yes,
is. And we'll talk about that here in a sec. But, because there are different ads and goals, right? And what those are will dictate kind of what you feel. Yeah.
So is it streamlined at all to coordinate it with KV4 or boldface?
Yeah, actually. So there is at the back end of Bold Trail, you can actually go in and there's a what do they call it in there? That you can have Bold Trail run Google Ads for you. They do charge to actually do that, but they do a very nice job. So if all of this is way over your head and you don't want to mess with it, it's a great option.
Well, I don't want to do it replace, right?
Yeah, but they do a nice job. So, all right. Creating your first campaign. We're gonna kind of talk through it, okay? The first thing you're gonna want to do is determine your goal for the ad. This is very important, all right? And I'll talk about why, but we are realtors. We don't have a place where someone can come buy a jacket. So we want to think about what our end goal of the ad is. Traffic, that's a good one. People visiting your website, we like that. If that's your goal, pick that for your Google ad. Okay. Leads, this is probably the one I would recommend most often, not always, but most often. But this is going to prompt interested consumers to contact you specifically. There is a little form you can create. And when I say form, it's like name and email, not like age I could say on a really good compliment. But it's a little form that you build in Google, people to fill out so you can get a hold of them. Okay. Sales, this is the one that doesn't really apply to us because when I say sales, yes, you want to sell a house, but when they say sales, it's like a scarf or a coffee. Yeah.
Can you program that when you get the information? It would go drop into a spreadsheet?
I mean, it does put it in a
Oh,
spreadsheet
that's okay.
in Google. And there's a way to export it out of there. I'm sure there's a way to up here. And the last one is consideration. This is brand consideration. So if you're just wanting to get in front of people to say, hey, I'm an agent in Des Moines or Cedar Rapids or wherever, that is what that one means. Okay. But I would focus on web traffic and leads for you guys. They're the ones that I think will actually go with you and do the most with you. So we've got our goal determined. That is step one. We're trying to figure out what the ad is, the end goal is. Now, how are we going to get there? That is our campaign type. Campaigns can be displayed in different ways. All right. The first one is search campaign. We all know it. It is the letters. Like when you go to Google and you search something, it's written out and it says sponsored above it. All right. Next one is a display campaign. This is a visual thing. It's going to be like on the side, maybe down across the middle, but it's got a picture to it or a video or something. The last one is going to be a video campaign. That is YouTube specific. And I know we all know what these are because I know I get them. I watch a YouTube video and it breaks over to an ad that I care nothing about, but I have to watch it. So that's what those are. Okay. And then this is the visual breakdown of the two. So on your left, we have the search network ads. So it's showing in the search results. It'll say ad or sponsored next door to it. And then this one over here is the display. So it'll show on the right-hand side and across the middle. And it will have more visuals attached to it. So you've all seen all of these. You've probably clicked on them before. But that is the visual. Okay. Now you've picked your campaign or your goal. You have your campaign type. Now we need to set up your campaign. We need to tell Google why it should show your ad to people. Why do you matter? Why do you matter to people looking into real estate? Why do you matter to people looking into real estate in Des Moines? So on and so forth. We have to get very specific. Because it is such a saturated area, it's a saturated marketing tool. You really want to differentiate yourself, and you'll do it in the campaign settings, all right? So location, that one's easy enough. One thing that is different from Facebook in particular is this area, we can get much more specific, much more particular with who we're showing our ad to. Because we can actually target based on demographics, behaviors, interests, all that crap. We can also target by location, which for us is very important, particularly if we're doing an ad for you trying to buy a house in Des Moines. Maybe you want to run an ad targeting specific cities or neighborhoods or zip codes. You can do that in Google. Okay? You also are going to want to set your language. This is a big one. Most people, I mean, will commonly do English, but if you cater to perhaps a demographic that does speak a different language, this is a great place for you to set yourself apart because Facebook doesn't allow you to drill down quite that far. Not well, it does, but it doesn't have all of them in there. Google does. This is where you set budget. It would be lifetime versus daily. Budget if you're doing a cost per click, cost per action, cost per impression. There's that up in here. And then we have bidding. So that is, oh, it's why should your Google ads be displayed? It's all of that stuff rolled in together. It's telling Google why you should show up, why you're actually going to serve people.
Can we type that in? Say why.
Well, so all of that is kind of, you're telling it through your keywords,
Oh, right.
through your website, all of that stuff.
All that other information is the why.
Yep, all that other information is the with me so far? Cool. All righty. Now we've got our ad groups. So this is kind of what I was talking about as far as how Google is set up, the framework of Google. I need a better marker. Gotta use the whiteboard. I'm excited. Okay, so when you're in Google, you set up your ad account. Oh, this sucks. You have a better one? That's it. Okay, so we have our ad account. We did that already. That's good. That's set. Now we then went and created. Wow,
Oh, well.
can you read that at all?
Yeah, see it.
No. This is not very pretty. Does this browser work better?
Took the left ear to Mickey
That's
Mouse.
just multimedia and stuff. What is that?
Black.
I don't have one. Here we go. I'm having to read that. It's fine. I hope you enjoyed this intermission. Okay. Here we go. All right, so we have our ad account set up. We set up our campaign. That lives under our ad account. Okay. Now you will more than likely end up with multiple campaigns in an ad account because you guys will probably advertise different things. Now, I would say, just to make it really simple, maybe we'll have a campaign for buyers, we'll have a campaign for sellers. Okay? I'm seeing some very confused faces. Have I lost you?
Well, we just did all that. We made our ad, so now our ad exists.
Well, hold on. I want to explain the framework of how
Oh,
this next part. Okay?
got it.
So before we make the actual ad, we made a campaign. We haven't gotten to the ad yet. We've got a campaign here. You will have multiple campaigns in an ad account. Because you will probably have one for simplicity's sake, one for sellers, one for buyers. Because those two people are going to be searching for very, very different things, right? Sure, they might search for any realty near me, but their needs are different, okay? Your advertising is gonna be different. It's gonna need to be different in order to show up. So we've got our, we'll just say this is sellers. Just gonna say yes. Now, then we're gonna have underneath of it, ad groups. Okay? These are gonna be collections of ads, not the ads themselves. All right, now the reason we do this is because we've got our target audience, sellers. But when we have ad groups, maybe we have sellers looking for houses in the morning. Sellers, earthquake sellers, their house is in the morning, they want to sell it. They tried to sell as, wow, thank you, Jesus. Sell by honor. Woof, that was good. For sale by honor. Thank you. Woo, it's gonna leave. No, it's Wednesday. Okay, they tried to sell by, for sale by owner. Okay, I'll try to do that. You want to sell? Then we've got this, I don't know, give me another group.
Luxury.
Sure, luxury, they're trying to sell luxury. Okay, these are all different buckets. They're still sellers, but they're different buckets. Okay, now within these buckets, you're gonna have different types of ads. Now this seems really scary, but Google actually does make it easy. Okay, because when we get to the point where you're gonna make your ad, you're gonna input a whole bunch of information. You're gonna write out 5 or 6 headings. You're gonna write out 7 captions. You're gonna give them, that's a scary noise. You're gonna give them 6 pictures, visuals. You're gonna give them a couple of YouTube videos. And Google is going to mix and match. Okay?
Is it like trying to find your audience that you mesh with or
It will
something?
try and find what performs the best. Okay?
Like, well,
So we input it and it does its little mojo.
Yes, yes. You can manually do your own ads, but it'll scramble them all up in a bucket and you spit them out and see what works. Okay? Google's very, very smart. It does a good job with that. Okay? So we've gotten through this. We've got our ad groups figured out. We're now going to work on making an actual ad. So all the crap that we're going to give to Google to scramble up, that's what we're going to talk about. Does this make sense?
Yes.
I think so.
So far, good. Yay, hooray. All right. So we're going to talk over on we're on to inputting keywords for our ad now. All right. Couple of things we need to think about. Matching. Google is going to give you some freedom to pick how you want these keywords to, how strict you're trying to be with your keywords, okay? So we have broad match. That basically means they're going to pull into the pool of potential search results. Like, if somebody were to search realtor near me, but they spelled a word wrong, or I don't know, realtor in Des Moines, it's going to then show that person ads that meet those keyword criteria, but also ones that are maybe for Urbandale or other in the area. Okay, it's going to be a little bit more broad in who it pulled in. Okay. Phrase match. This is going to be searches that include the keyword. So it could be that the person typed out homes for sale in Des Moines, but perhaps you've said you want it to be a phrase match, and one of your phrases is Des Moines, that search that contains Des Moines is gonna be served to your ad. Potentially, okay? And then we have exact match. This is the one that is going to cut your audience. I don't know, but by a lot. Because it's telling Google that you don't want your ads to be shown to anybody that doesn't exactly type out your keyword, letter for letter, no spelling errors. Don't do that. Because it's just not, doesn't get you anything, okay? The next thing is targeting. So setting our demographics. We need to consider age, gender, income, all that crap. We also want to talk about interests, so behavior, things that they're interested in, places they follow online, all that jazz. And then we also want to consider remarketing to people that have already been on your site. That is an option when you're doing targeting. It's called a lookalike audience, and essentially it'll view in a creepy weird way the people that have been on your website in the past and look for people that are similar to them and show them your ad potential. Okay. The last one that I think a lot of people miss is exclusion. And this is where you're going to put in words that you want to avoid. So if somebody were to search for houses near me, rentals, unless you work with rentals, you probably don't want them, right? So you could put in your ad to exclude the word rentals. So that way it'll tell Google, hey, I don't want to be showing the people who search for this. It's part of the information. So even though it's technically like a negative exclusion, you don't obviously want to click any ethics things, but if you don't work with renters, then you don't want them to come to you. You know?
Why would you exclude? Wouldn't that like, I don't care if you're renting or buying, just see my name. You know what I mean?
Because, I mean, you can leave it, but if your net is too wide, it's less. You want to drill down a little bit. You don't want your net to be so gigantic that you're pulling everybody and then you have to siphon through all of it yourself. It might be able to do it for you. I'm not saying to exclude people who are buyers. That would be stupid.
No, but I'm just saying, like, wouldn't that you would lessen the pool just putting that where it's like, I don't care if you're looking for a rake.
And if that is your,
You know what I mean? I want my name right there. Boom, after you get the rake.
if that is your aim, then you try it. Okay. All right. So essentially, all of this is going to tell Google what you want your ad to show up for. Okay. Then we've got the actual writing process. When I say writing, that is a very loose term. There is no novels being written here. This is, I mean, like 50 characters, 25 characters. It is not a long process. But you are going to write multiple headlines. And headlines, I think they're like 15 characters. And when I say write multiple, they can be very similar, but just slight changes. So best realtor, more. Realtor Remax, like that's better. Do you know what I mean? You don't have to like invent all the things for your headlines.
It
Next thing
actually
is-
it auto-filled all that for me.
And it will sometimes. There's sometimes it won't do all of them, it kind of depends. But when you plug in your URL, your URL for your website, it's real smart. It will scan your website and pull things they think would be a good headline. They will tell you a recommended number of how many headlines to include. And if you don't get that many autofilled, just add a couple, but it will definitely help you out. Same with I think there's a couple descriptions too. That is the next thing you're going to write is a description. It is just a little bit more detail to tell somebody before they click into your ad what you expect. Okay. This is another spot to hit those keywords. You don't have to, what did they pack them in? That used to be probably 8-10 years ago. It used to be kind of the methodology to have your ad perform well, was to cram as many of those keywords into any possible place. Google's smarter than that now. They can see right through it. So use them, but don't make it so, but don't do it to the point where your content is no longer. Okay. display URL, this is where you're sending them. So if you're trying to target sellers, for example, you would probably want to put a link to your website on the page that talks about seller resources or something to do with sellers. You can send them just to your main page, but you would get a little bit more value for them going to a page that actually applies specifically to them. And the last thing you want to consider is mobile settings. So this is a newer thing that they consider, but you want to provide like headings and visuals that would work well on mobile as well, because who sees an ad is also determined by what device now. It seems silly, but it's true. And then last is the assets. This is an additional place for you to provide Google with information about who you are, what your business is, and why it should be shown to people. Okay? Don't skip this. It is an extra step. You don't have to do it, but you should. Okay? It is a spot for you to add additional site links, aka other specific pages on your site, because it's going to be, again, another way to mix and match for Google. It's additional pages with good info. Talks about who you are, what you provide, why you're different, all that jazz. Okay?
This is where you put the MLS video tour link.
Yeah, that would be a great one if it's on your website. We want to send them. You could technically, I guess, send them off your website. I would recommend sending them to your website, but if you have your link that way, that's fine. Call outs. This is another just a little text box, and you can add more detail. And again, it's just a mix and match. And then structural snippets. This is kind of like a subhead. It will display under the text you inputted for a description. But the whole point of those is to make your ad more effective. It gives the Google machine more information on you and your business, and will hopefully put you higher in the ad rank ad auction. All right. Good problem. All right, monitoring and optimizing. This is a huge, important thing. I mentioned it earlier, but you want to pay attention to your Google ads. You want to be in a committed relationship with your Google ads. Okay? Visit them at least once a week. Say hi, check on them, notice what they're doing. Because Google will tell you. It will tell you exactly how things are going. It will give you suggestions on how to make it better. Google doesn't want to work against you. They want a very symbiotic relationship, because if you don't advertise and you don't have a good experience advertising, they make the money. They're going to help you. Okay? Important ad metrics to look at. Clicks, those are good. Those are important. Impressions are going to be a number. I call that's an ego metric. It's going to be a very pretty number, probably 4 or 5 figures. It doesn't mean anything. Okay? That means eyeballs looked at it. That's it. It could be a good indicator that it's getting out there in front of humans, but they are not engaging with it. You get no business from it. It has no return. Okay? You also want to look at cost and conversion. Conversion rate is the impressions. So it's clicks divided by impressions. It's a percentage. So the number of people that actually click through, we want to know what that conversion rate is, right? And that is a key metric to track ROI. I get a lot of questions usually about how do I know if this is a good investment? I have so many different marketing options. You can see a return on your investment with Google. Okay, it doesn't happen overnight. I promise you that. It is a long game that you're in, but it does work. Let's see. Oh, there is never be afraid to pause a campaign. If something isn't working, pause it. If completing it, it's saying, okay, I need to go back to the drawing board for a minute. Pause your campaigns, pause your keywords, and then go back to the drawing board. You can always adjust your bidding strategies as well. You can change if you're doing cost per click, cost per action, cost per impression. You can change those. If it's working, if it's not working, you can make that choice. And then again, use negative keywords to filter traffic. If you're seeing a bunch of results for a keyword that you actually decide it's not relevant for you, get rid of that keyword. You can make those changes during the process. It's a living, breathing entity. You don't have to have a hard and fast stop. You can go back and change things. So conversion tracking, why to track it? This is another step, and if you want help setting this up, let me know. But Google actually has a snippet of code, not scary, I promise, that you can take, it gives it to you, and you plug it in the back end of your website, and it will give you more rich data to look at and see how people are interacting with your website. It'll help you with leads. It'll help you with developing of your website and keeping it as helpful as possible for consumers. Okay? It's going to help you determine meaningful action. It's going to tell you what pages people are visiting, how long they're there, what they click on, if they watch a video. It will give you information. It does require the piece of code to be inputted though. Okay? If you need help with that, let me know. It's not hard to do through KB4. Sorry, full crap. If you use a different platform, I probably can figure it out. I make no promises, but I can take it. All right. Couple of tips for success. We want to monitor, talk about this, committed relationship. Landing page. You also want to be making sure that your website is quality, updated. You have added new information. You change your information. You add new videos. You do all the things to make it as current as humanly possible. All right. What?
No, that's why I know. Oh, I'm shaming myself.
No, you're good. It's one of those things that if you don't think about it, it's not real and it's not a problem. So, you're not alone. You're not alone. You want to think about negative keywords. You do, unless you don't. Be specific. You do really want to think about who your consumers are and what they're searching for, and you want to put yourself in their shoes. Think about literally when they go to their keyword. What words do they put in the Google sheet? You want those to be in your ads. You want them to. And start small. It doesn't have to be on a gigantic scale. You don't have to throw hundreds of dollars at Google right away. In fact, I would recommend you don't do that because really it's learning, it's trial and error. You need to get familiar with how this all works before you start putting major dollars behind it. Because I know like Zillow, people throw a lot of money at Zillow, but they're telling Zillow they can do what they want with that money. Google, you're hands-on. You say what happens with your money. Okay? So if that's something that's important to you, Google is a good place to be. Right? A couple of common troubleshooting things to consider if you're running an ad, it's not going so hot. If you've got a low click-through rate, that means people are seeing your ad, they have the opportunity to click, they don't. You need to figure out why that is. Okay? You need to figure out what copy is unappealing, what information is outdated, what visual is not so visual, what link is not working. There's something somewhere that is broken and we can fix it. Low quality score, this is something you can actually view in your Google dashboard. It will tell you how healthy your account is as far as all your landing pages, your information, your contact information, all that stuff. If it's a low quality score, you probably missed something somewhere. And that could be as simple as you didn't put your email address or your phone number. Or your link to your website isn't actually going through. That one we can fix. It's all fixed. And the last one is a budget issue. Okay, I don't ever want to say that Google will have such a high barrier to entry that you have to spend $20 for a play. If they're telling you that, it's because you've gone too specific. You've broadened your search a little bit. But if they're telling you that number, again, we can go back and we can reevaluate. We can figure out why they're asking for that obscene amount of money for one click. It's because, well, you have targeted, I don't know, like a block in somebody's neighborhood. That's really, really tiny and they all do not great. So it's going to cost you more than half. You see what I'm saying? So you just need to think about that stuff. But Google is not set in stone. We have the opportunity to make changes. And questions? Yeah.
So, because of metrics and hands-on. If you compared it, contrast it to AdWords and you're not getting as much, so therefore it's probably going to end up being like more money. With better quality.
Because here's the thing, it's a time versus money investment, Google or ads are, right? Places like Boost and AdWorks, you don't spend any time making those. They happen. That's
Right.
great. If you will probably spend more for them because it's giving, in this case, a third party the power. And you have to pay the third party, but they are also the ones that are in control of where your ad goes and all that stuff. They do a good job, don't get me wrong. People like AdWorks and Boost, and that is a perfectly fine route, and I have nothing against them. But if you're more concerned with how your dollars are being spent, cent for cent, how it's being used, Google will give you a better idea. Fair enough.
Just will the PowerPoint be available on the drive?
Sure. It's in Canva, is that okay?
Yep.
Just put the present link in there.
In the analytics, is there anything showing like how you compare to similar so that you like, I might think 1,500 clicks in the first day is great, but really it should be like double that or triple.
Yeah, I mean, comparison is a dangerous thing, but there is a way to look at others. Like we have other brokerages, of course, to see how their traffic is. I don't know that it gives you the exact number. There's a lot of tricks perhaps, but you can. There's a spot, I want to say it's in Google Analytics, which is kind of an offshoot in a different class. It's what? Google Analytics is a whole different page. But you can put your URL in and then put others in, and it will give you an idea. But don't get too hung up on that either. Because, I mean, they may have some outside professional doing stuff. They may have been doing this for a decade. Yes.
So if you have a Google business page,
Yeah.
have you started?
No.
Or, okay. Totally separate.
That is good. We want that. It's part of what will tell Google what the quality score is, but it's not. There are no ads happening. Yeah, it would be fairly simple to run one off of there, but they're not. Anybody else? Cool. That's all, kids. Thank you.
Thank you.